Hey guys, so I think the title of this video is gonna be something like what's the Mandela effect leading to, or Mandela effect in game, something like that. And just a little disclaimer before I go into my opinion, that's all it is. It's just my opinion, so I don't want to hear from any judgmental people masquerading as Christians telling me that verse X, Y, and Z says this, so therefore there is no way that the second coming of Christ is happening right now. Again, I say people masquerading as Christians, so I'm talking about fake Christians out there that have basically infiltrated the community. Who, at this point, they're basically telling on themselves, though, over time. Give them enough time and their true colors will show. I'm not talking about the real Christians who would never, ever even think to pass judgment on another person who, at the end of the day, is just trying to figure things out just like everybody else. I don't claim to have all the answers. I just go by my gut and my own personal experiences. Anyway, so what is the Mandela effect leading to? I think it's leading up to the second coming of Christ, which I personally refer to as Christ consciousness. Because to call it just the second coming of Christ kind of seems like the wording implies a space or distance between yourself and Christ. I like the term Christ consciousness because the wording implies that Christ is so close to you and his love is so powerful that it essentially literally fills up your consciousness with his love and life force. So basically, I define Christ consciousness as connecting with God in a powerfully tangible way, if that makes sense. I mean, there's different names for this depending on who you ask. Some people call it ascension. I don't mind that word, but there are other terms for it too. I think connecting with Christ consciousness and ascension could actually be synonyms maybe for the same process. I use the terms because I don't know what else to call it. Maybe I could call it spiritual evolution or the piercing of the veil to connect more with God. And for anyone who wants to try to call me a new ager or criticize me for not using the right wording, I'm sorry. If you want to criticize me over semantics, then I don't know what to tell you at this point. I just know what I've been experiencing. And I'm sorry if I can't come up with the right noun or verb to describe it. Really, the feeling of love that is felt is indescribable. It's the kind of love that I've never been able to get from any human being as long as I've been alive, or any kind of worldly achievement. It goes so far beyond. I'm telling you guys, when you feel this, it will be a feeling of when you feel this, you will stop seeking or searching for objects in this world to make you happy. The desire to do that won't even be there. When these waves come, the level of peace is unexplainable. It feels like an expansion of love radiating out from your chest. And it seems to come and go in waves. And what I'm finding is that the mind can influence this in a way. So for example, if your thoughts are racing and you're putting all your focus on lower vibration thoughts, even if it's just like simple thoughts about work stuff, if you focus too hard on lower level vibration thoughts for too long, then it can kind of make the feeling dissolve away. But if you're able to clear your mind of those lower frequency thoughts, then the presence of this unconditional love stays longer. I mean, that's been my experience. So it's almost like God is training us to use our thoughts to work for us instead of against us, in order to allow for this connection with this to happen. I almost don't even know, or don't even want to give it a name, because it's so indescribable. And I know the moment you attach a label to something, that's when these people can start to judge and insult it. But you can't diminish someone's own personal experience and tell them that the love and peace they've personally felt is wrong or imaginary. Because that's what a lot of these infiltrators will do. They will literally, well, first they'll pretend to be your friend. They'll put on this little act. That's the first thing that they'll do to try to gain your trust and mess with your head. But after a while, they'll literally say you don't know what you're talking about, and then say that they're attacking you in the name of Jesus, which is just crazy to me. But they aren't experiencing this Christ consciousness. I think this indescribable feeling is related to the second coming of Christ, because this is a sensation that encompasses everything that God's unconditional love stands for. It's beyond any feeling that people could ever. It's beyond any feeling that you probably, if you've never felt this before, it's not a regular emotion. It's not a regular feeling like happy or, I mean, all we can do is give it labels and give it words, but it's not like any feeling you've ever felt before if you've never come across this. And what I'm finding is that when it comes over you, it isn't just like a singular event that has any kind of set duration. It comes and goes in waves that vary in duration. I don't know exactly what brings it on, but I know when I make an effort to keep a clear mind and focus on God, that can sometimes help to bring it on. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure as wonderful as it feels, that is probably only, what I've been experiencing is probably only scratching the surface of how deep this Christ consciousness love goes. It will make you cry every now and then, especially in the beginning stages. It will make you forget any kind of worries or problems that you have, no matter how stressed out you were. Like, you literally don't remember them when you're in the middle of this expansion. So it's an emotion of pure love and peace, but it's also a physical sensation within your body. It's hard to describe the physical sensation. It kind of feels like when you just barely wake up from a dream and your body is still in that really relaxed state, and it feels good all over, like your body feels good all over. It's kind of like that, but you don't feel sleepy most of the time. I mean, there's been a handful of times where it was so strong that I felt like I could possibly take a nap if I wanted to, but it's different than just feeling tired. There's a level of peace and expansion that feels so good. The only hard part is when the wave recedes and you have to go back to feeling the way you normally do in day-to-day life. And sometimes when it dissolves away, your busy thinking mind tries to grasp it and make it come back to stay forever. But this bliss is so not of this world that it fades away, kind of like the memory of a peaceful dream fades away when you wake up in the morning and you try to remember the details of what you just dreamed. It's kind of weird. Like it's kind of weird the way my memory gets affected. And then the next wave starts again a couple weeks later, or sometimes even a couple days later, and you're back. I don't really know all the ins and outs of how this ascension process works, but I'm just making this video for those of you who have started to go through this process. For those of you who aren't, I don't expect you guys to understand until it starts to happen to you. I don't really even like to talk about this too much because I don't expect a lot of people to understand. I would be confused too about what's being described because the emotion and physical sensation is beyond any kind of human words or concepts. So I would be confused if this wasn't something that was happening to me. The only words that I can come up with to be able to talk about it and put it into words is that this is God or Christ consciousness, because what is happening is not of this place. Merkaba Carpet's channel does a really good job. He does a really good job of discussing his journey with this ascension process and how he deals with things when the wave goes away for a while. Because it's such a dramatic contrast between that experience and just your regular everyday life emotions. It's such a contrast that when the wave kind of goes away for a little bit, it can feel like not good. Like it can be kind of scary or depressing because there's such a difference. Like it's such a contrast. But he does an excellent job on describing his whole process that he's been going through. He's experiencing the Mandela effect as well. But I'll put a link to his channel below. And I just ask that everyone please be respectful in the comment section. But it's funny because the more time that goes by, the more wonderful the love becomes, even when you thought it couldn't possibly feel better. This second coming of Christ seems to be a process that spans many years. It'll probably go on for the rest of my life because I can't see any limited cutoff point to where these love waves end. Like, this love is just, it's something I could have never imagined ever. Like, it's just unimaginable. So my guess is that, like, if I think it's unimaginable now, who knows how powerful this love could grow, or how powerful love spans, because it probably just goes on, the extent of it or the intensity of it probably just goes on forever and ever. Now, this, whatever it is, I don't experience it all the time. I actually don't feel it the majority of the time, but when it comes, it's like it never left. And my sense of being able to judge time or keep track of time duration seems to change a little bit. It's hard to describe. Really, the hard part is not getting sucked into all the distractions that this world throws at us. That's why the 40-hour work week was invented to begin with, to distract people. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is what the Mandela effect is leading to. Christ consciousness, ascension, whatever word you want to give it, it's happening. Over the years, there's definitely been an acceleration in the intensity and duration of these waves. Maybe I could just call them love waves. I don't know what name to give it. But yeah, there's definitely been an acceleration in the intensity and duration of the waves. I will say that. And I think some people think that when ascension happens that our physical bodies will literally leave this earth. I don't think that's the case. I mean, I could be wrong. No one really knows, but I think it's just like with the Mandela effect, where somehow we ended up, quote unquote, here, yet our physical bodies didn't seem to physically move. It was our consciousness that changed, or some people call it shifting. It's not the meat suits that are moving around, shifting, or changing. It may be the same with this ascension thing. Your body will be here while your consciousness is experiencing this unspeakable pure love and ecstasy. And meanwhile, the person sitting next to you has no idea that you're experiencing Christ consciousness, because their consciousness is still trapped in the pre-Mandela effect world, where to them the Mandela effect doesn't even exist. They'll probably do the same thing with this Christ consciousness. They'll say it doesn't exist because they're not personally experiencing it, and they'll probably, a lot of them probably even criticize you for claiming to experience this. Like, how could you criticize someone because they're experiencing something? That would be like, I don't know, it's pretty crazy to me how people will act sometimes. But yeah, yet it's funny because, like, yet you'll both be sharing the same room, so it's like you could be experiencing this Christ consciousness and they're on a totally different level, yet both of you are sharing the same room. So I think it's kind of like that. I think there's one apparent space we all reside in, but many different levels of consciousness that are being experienced by different individuals. So I'm not gonna get into a debate with anyone in the comment section. I'll simply just erase any disrespectful or judgmental comments. People make these videos because they don't have anyone else to talk to in the quote unquote real world. So this is a means to be able to like express ourselves. So I'm not going to tolerate anyone, attacking other people for simply just expressing their own experiences. I don't have time for that. So to those of you who are open-minded, thank you for listening, and feel free to leave a comment. And what I'm saying can only be validated by your own personal experience. When you start to feel that Christ consciousness in your chest, you will know. That's all I'm going to say.